Oh, sugar. One. Guys, welcome back for another episode. I mentioned a couple of times I've changed the name of this podcast about 30,000 times, so it is the Deal Room now. I can't make up my fucking mind, but today I am very pleased to have James Buckley on the show. James, I got out of prison 10 years ago, and I found JB Sales, John Barrows, and yourself on the podcast. I think it was Vanilla Soft. Yep. And
Yeah,
from that
probably.
point, I learned.
Yeah.
Yep,
With
yep.
Daryl.
I learned from that point every single year I would take on board what you guys were talking about, and I had no idea what sales was. No idea. I started in my first job earning less than a McDonald's employee, doubled my
I was Taco Bell guy. I was Taco Bell.
double my salary the next year, doubled it again the next year. 4 years after that, I started my own business. 3 years into that, I had my first conversation with John a couple of weeks ago, and now it's surreal that I'm actually on the phone with you.
Nice.
So I would love for you to introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it, James?
Yeah. Hey, oh, thank you very much, man. My name is James. Say what, Sales Buckley. If you're a salesperson, we are the same person. That is my mantra. I've been living it for the better part of the last decade. I cut my teeth in the kitchen. I was a cook for 15 years. In and out of the kitchen, what I did was door-to-door B2B and door-to-door residential sales. So those are like the purest forms of sales. If you can get through door-to-door, you can get through just about any sales scenario. It is rough. You never know what's going to happen when the door opens. That's what's wild as hell. Just like when you're cold calling, you never know what craziness is coming from the other end of the phone. So I find sales to be super fun, and that's why I fell in love with it. And then I started in SaaS in 2015, and cold calling became my claim to fame. I love cold calling people. I lean to the phone. If there is a phone number on a record, I'm probably going to dial it, and obviously update the data if it's incorrect. And that's, my attention to detail is heavy, and it can bog me down sometimes, but I always find that it's appreciated by my administration. Next thing you know, I get this call. So fast forward 2015 to 2019, and I get this call from John Barrows. Me and him and Morgan J. Ingram always ended up at the same events all the time, and we started hanging out together, having a great time. And then I got this call from him, and this is how he pitched me on the job. He said, "Hey, if the way that you make people feel is amazing, do you want to do it with me?" And I was like, "You had me at hello, man. Like, let's do it. Sign me up." Right. And then, we were doing the sales training thing, and COVID happened. So we pivoted. When we pivoted to the online model, we realized that there was this whole branch of media that should exist for the sales community and sell better. The show itself, the daily sales show, was born. At the time, it was just Jay Barrow's webinars, right? Which was awesome. We had like thousands of people at the webinars, and then we went to like 2 a week, and then before I know it, we were like, let's do it every day, and then everybody was like, no fucking way, that's never going to happen. And we happily accepted the challenge, and 2 years later, here we are. I host the show, and I have a blast talking to the best sales professionals in the world and getting as much tactical information from them as possible. I know that was like a 5-minute intro, but that is what I do, and it's my favorite job in the world, and they're going to have to fire me. I will make it uncomfortable.
Mate, I agree with you fully. I started sales driven in 2020 on the back end of the pandemic, and my opinion was, God has sent you a message to go home and rethink your life. And I was on a conference call with 1,000 people at the company I worked with. We had just hired a new managing director. He was supposed to 10x and scale the company, get us to X amount of million.
I hate that term, 10x. When people say it, I'm like,
and he didn't do any of it. So in one big call, I said, dude, what are you doing for me? Because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with my life right now. I'm sitting here idle. He goes, well, I don't think you should be sitting there idle. Well, I am. So tell me what the hell to do. He didn't even have an answer. The next week, I found out that the webinar I had run, they were selling fictitious registrations where telemarketing companies in India were just calling people and saying, yo, join the webinar. You don't even have to register. You don't even have to show. Just let me put your details in and then I'll go. And one of my clients actually called me. He called the list and called me and he goes, you're a fucking liar, dude. And I was like, Okay, why? And he exposed the whole thing. I found out this, this, and this, and I had to go to my marketing team and say, "Yo, I've had a client that's come and say this to me. Is this true?" And they said, "Shane, it's none of your registrations, none of your business. As long as the registrations are there and they're opted in, they're good." I said, "You're a fucking idiot," and quit. My boss said to me, "Good on you." After that, I started sales driven and I got into meeting booking, appointment setting for clients. And I'd tell you the truth, James, I did not like it. It was always a knife fight with clients, and I had to get better at selling better. I had to learn more, I had to take sounder training and then other
Yeah.
kind of things just to build my acumen mentorship. And then it got me to a place where last year I sold my soul to the devil and ended up taking on a business contract that I should not have taken on. And long story short, it got me to a
Mm.
place where I got separated, divorced, arrested, loads of stuff. And out of that became the podcast. And the podcast, I've spoken to over 250 CEOs in the past 10 months. It's been the most exciting time of my life. And I wouldn't ask for anything more. Obviously, money is a little bit less, but in terms of the fruitfulness and the enjoyment of speaking to people, it's unmatched.
Yeah. You know, the thing is, Shane, is that money is only what I found about salespeople is that money is only the reason they get into
Exactly.
sales. Once they have the money, it becomes about something
Hmm.
else: growth, development, progress, lifestyle, assets, family, security, training, personal and professional development. And if you're just thinking about going into sales, or if you're a sales veteran, like I remember my first goal coming out of Taco Bell, making $25,000 to $30,000 a year. My goal was that I wanted to be able to take my wife and my kids to dinner without having to check my bank account first to make sure that I could. Once I got into sales and started to see the success and have like a solid base annual pay plus commission and be measured on that commission and compensated appropriately, I was an addict. I like say what sales was born because I had to give this thing a name that I loved so much. And it was funny because the whole thing started when just holding my camera in front of my face and being like, yo, y'all, I used this opener today and I scheduled 6 meetings. Or, I tried this opener 50 times in email today and I got no responses. Do not use this opener. Like, that was basically how the whole thing started, was just like sharing what I did that day, every
Yeah,
day, with whoever would listen. If you'd have told me in 2015 that it would have amounted to me, one, being hired by somebody that I admired as much as John Barrows and Christopher Merrill and Megan Forgione, the three folks that I lean on most for leadership and guidance, I would have told you were full of shit. If you had also said to me, James, your commanding performance, your personality will land you a media role that will change your life forever, I would have told you were full of shit. This is just an SDR role. Y'all, it's bigger than that. You have an opportunity that you don't even see in front of you, and all you have to do is lean into the skills. And suddenly it becomes this whole different universe where money isn't even really, it's just a byproduct of what you're doing. That isn't that what we all should be
I agree
striving
with you
for?
fully
That's
percent,
my
and
opinion.
that's what it came down to. 3 years into it, I hit my first £63,000 month, and that I went to Morocco. I ended up not having to look at my bank account for 2 to 3 weeks with my wife, with my daughter. It was incredible, bro. Incredible. First year we did
Yeah.
171,000. The next year we did 411,000. The last year we did about 100,000. I've actually got rid of most of my team because of that contract that I took on board, but it ended up becoming
Uh,
just rightfully so, like you said, money is the byproduct. It's the feeling and fulfillment that you get from money. So is it the security? Is it the prestige? Is it the reputation? Is it just
yeah.
the expo? There's so many other byproducts that come from money. And I quickly realized that. And then when I saw how much fun I was having in these conversations and then accelerating my kind of skill set and my knowledge in the sales domain, after speaking to so um, you know who Nathan Lacker is? Yeah, so I saw his. I'm not really
I
a
do
biggest
know.
fan of his personality. I'll tell you the truth, but I like what he's doing in terms of interviewing CEOs, founders, and getting that scoop, and then putting that in front of VCs. So that's kind of the direction it's taken me on now. It's led me into a mega into an AI contract, and mate, just the journey itself has been more fun when you're struggling and going up and down than the actual end result, because the end result comes with a ton of problems. So for yourself, what would you say helped you master the B2B landscape in your journey?
So first of all, I don't think that anyone will ever be a master of the B2B landscape. I think that it's ever evolving and constantly changing, and therefore we must as well. So am I a master? I don't think so. I think what I am is I've become a good listener, and I've learned that I talk too fucking much, and that I need to ask more questions and stop telling stories that are epically long that people kind of trail off, right? What helped me the most? I would say having an outlet of consistent knowledge and perspective shift. Something like Sell Better. We are live every day, right? If people come to the show every day they will learn something. It might not be something that's earth shattering for their results, but it'll be something that changes their routines. And isn't that growth? Isn't that development? Isn't that how different results come? Absolutely. So having an outlet helped me quite a bit. Communities like Rev Genius, communities like the Sales Rebellion. These people are real humans just like me. They get up and they do the job every day. I can go in those communities and I can have real, hey, have you guys ever encountered this type of conversations? And real humans that do what I do every day will say, hey, I did this once and it worked. Or, hey, here's something I said that sucked. Don't do this, right? And you're like, that really helps me. I'll tell you the third and final thing that helped me the most. Building a network of non-bystanders, actual engaged people. I have a habit of staying below the 30,000 limit connection on LinkedIn because I will go through this process where I have hundreds of inbound connection requests. I host a show that attracts 500, at least 500 people every day to the show. So when you get those waves of inbound people, I accept everybody in my connection. I accept everybody. But then I send this message. Thank you for connecting. What prompted you to reach out? Prompted is my search term. So every month or so, I go through and I look for the term prompted. And then I look for all the people I sent that message to that were inbound and connected with me and never responded. And you know what? I remove them.
Wow, that's intelligent.
Now, here's the thing. It happens in groups of like 20 or 50 at a time sometimes. I've been doing this for a decade, and I've never had a single person come to me and say, hey, how did we get disconnected? What this tells me is that when you see networks of hundreds of thousands of people, a million people, most of the people in that network are going to be bystanders. You can't go to that person and be like, hey, can you introduce me to this human? Because you might know them. The chances are like really slim that they know that person. In my network, I got a higher chance. It's not all that high. I mean, 30,000 people is still a lot of people, right? And I fight that number constantly because I think that's stupid. Like LinkedIn should change that. No other network caps you at 30,000 people. Every other network will allow you to have as many followers as possible. Facebook might have a limit now that I think about it. But outside of those two, like, why would you limit somebody's ability to build a network? That seems counterproductive to what the purpose of the platform is, especially from a business perspective. So that strategy will help you stay below 30,000 and have less bystanders in your network. I have engaged people in my network. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I support that actually. When I first started on LinkedIn, I'll never forget the first thing that went viral for me. What I would consider viral on LinkedIn. It was a joke template, and all I said, I was like, "Wouldn't you feel better if automated emails were a little more honest? How about this?" And this was the automated email. It was like, "Dear first name, We could do this dance for like 10 months where I reach out every week and bother the crap out of you, or we can connect for 10 minutes and you can tell me if this is a worthy conversation to continue to have. What do you say? Right? I put this out there. It was like one of my first LinkedIn posts in 2014, 2015. And it was supposed to be a joke, man. I woke up the next morning to like 219,000 views, and my in my
Dude, so
my
where would you
in
say
my,
then
my
is that?
DMs were like massive. I had like thousands of in mails. I spent the next 6 months prospecting from that list alone, and ended up closing like 80,000 in business. Our ACV was like $1,500, so you can imagine like how transactional that became for me for that 6 months. That's when I knew like, hey, this like content being the road to connection, and that connection leading to a conversation, and that conversation being, the gateway to a relationship and trust. That's what's earning opportunities, and that's what's getting me sales. The law of averages says that this will continue to work if I just figure out how to do it at scale, and that's basically what we've created. I don't. It probably does fit the fit the mold. Then you said Patrick and David.
Fantastic.
Hmm. I love where your head is, but I have to push back on the conglomerate. I am about the little guy, and I don't agree with conglomerating everything just because we can. A group of podcast hosts all coming together to create some big group. We've seen this happen time and time again. We've seen it happen with CROs. We've seen it happen with CFOs. We've seen it happen with, this is the old LinkedIn, is what you're describing, right? Groups, things that, really just died away. And why did they die away? They died away because it's very obvious what those groups' aim is. Right? We're all coming together for this thing. Okay, great. What's the goal? Our thing is that we want to be the dominant player in the field for X, whatever X is. It's better, I think, to be an individual and have something that stands out unique. Let me give you a good example. In most instances, when you see something like sponsorship of an event, what are you really doing? You are signing up to pay a price to get a list. Okay, I'm supportive of this move. Everyone needs contacts that what they can reach out to that are potentially their ideal customers. I think that's a great motion. But most of the time, when you're talking about marketing collaboration, what are you measuring? You're measuring impressions. Impressions are cool, awesome. They certainly don't create opportunity, though. Not if somebody's not there with a process behind it going, who left this impression? Can I find out? Are they my ICP? Can I send a message to them that's relevant and meaningful? Right? And let's be frank. Most companies don't do this. They don't set this stuff up. They just pay for a list. And then they pump that list into your CRM. and then they drop it into some drip campaign that they think is awesome, right? And the unsubscribes start coming, and the thanks but no thanks, and the hey, is this automated, and where'd you get my information starts coming back. And I want that to die. And when we conglomerate things, when we come together as a unit, when we start building these standards, when we start taking control, it starts to become less personal. And once it's less personal, it's less meaningful.
A happy medium of, in my opinion, it would be, so my thing is, how do I help startup founders get in front of VCs so that they can raise capital and fulfill their dreams? I don't believe there's a ton of people in that space. So I would say it doesn't cross that fine line of, all right, now it's getting into something uncomfortable that I don't want to be part of.
Yeah, I'll tell you, two at a time. You and I are doing it right now.
Okay, tell me more.
We're collaborating. You host the show. I host Sell Better. Here we are collaborating on the thing that we talk about on our show. This is value for anybody out there that's in the sales space, whether you're an individual contributor, a leader, a marketer that feeds to sales. These types of conversations are the best type of collaborations because they are meaningful. You get a third person in here, sure, fine, another perspective. That's amazing. You start getting 4, 5, 6 people in a room, you end up with hundreds of them in a room where 2 people are talking and the rest of them have their microphones off. And a lot of people are just kind of working in the background while this conversation is happening.
I agree.
What's the meaningfulness there? Where's the value? It's not there, right? Now you're going to go and you're going to sell a list of sponsors, a list of people that came. You're going to sell all the contact information. Like think about what that actually looks like from the people that came into the room. And this is what we always tell our sponsors, ZoomInfo, Gong, Vidyard, SalesLoft, Salesforce. These are all our sponsors, right? Imagine that you find out that every show that you come to is accompanied by cold messages, warm contextual messages from salespeople because you came to a show. If I know they're generic and they have no context and don't tie back to the show that I just attended, chances are good I'm unsubscribing or at least ignoring these messages for the next couple weeks, however long the campaign is, right? But if I reach out and I actually say something relevant to the show, thank them for coming, ask them a question that is relevant to them because I checked their LinkedIn out, right? That's a human process right there. This is the stuff that can only happen when small groups of people get together, create, and make it relevant for the target audience they're trying to impact, right? But a big giant conglomerate, I don't know. I've seen too many climb and win and then go, okay, now what? And they end up selling it, right? They end up trying to productize it. It doesn't
garbage.
work. They sell it. And it becomes something that's like, just noise in the space. It's okay. Like there's nothing wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. I'm not accusing anyone of taking a bad action or going in a bad direction. This just happens. And that's why, as individuals, we need to be doing the things that matter most to our target audience, putting it out there in public. There's a stat that like 71% or 61%, it's one or the other, of all buyers look to social media of some kind before they decide to give a seller their time. Think about that for a minute. That's not peanuts. That's over half, for sure. Over half. So what does that mean? That means, and I heard this argument just the other day, I was on this show, and somebody said, like, social first gives them the opportunity to earn the credibility so that their emails get responded to. And I said, no, that's a misnomer, right? That's something that you believe as an individual, and I'm fine with that. But here's the thing. If they get a cold email and it's relevant, personalized, what's the first thing they do? I know if you're like me, I go to LinkedIn. Who's this person? That reached out to me, right? If you as a seller, if you have 100 people in a sequence or a cadence, whatever you might call it, if you have 100, go to your LinkedIn and look at the people that viewed your profile, and then look at the list of people in that sequence. You're going to find that a good majority of the people that have visited your profile in the last week are in that sequence. And that's because they got your email, they opened it, and they were like, who the fuck is this person that's reaching out? And they went and they looked. And then get this, I'll give you the golden gem here. Reach out in a connection request and say, thanks for stopping by my profile. I was just checking out, name their company. And that's it. That's all you have to say. I got that from Mod Girl, Mandy McEwen. This has been working for me like crazy on social. I'm like, yo, I was just checking out your company. And they're like, oh, yeah? And the conversation has begun.
I think that's a great strategy, honestly, and it is the simplicity. So one thing that I noticed when I was selling appointment setting services, the conversion rates in the negatives, I would say, right? And it's because, hey, do you want
Yeah.
meetings? How many fucking
Yeah.
people do you know that ask you, hey, do you want meetings or software development? And I'm just like, oh my God.
Our virtual assistant can set 30 meetings a month for you.
Oh,
Doesn't
like
that
you guys are absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. But
I would love to talk to
and they're
that
just like, don't
dentist.
you realize you sound like an idiot? One actually said, we can book 80 to 100 meetings a month. And I was like, okay, go to look at their profile. They got 154 connections. They've been there for 1 month. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. So, oh my
Yeah, that
God,
sounds like
it's
it's
a
going
nightmare.
somewhere.
But now I would say, not bragging or boasting in any type of way, but reaching out to people and saying, hey, uh, I am interviewing the best CEOs, VPs of partnerships, of marketing in the space right now. I'm opening the door to more partnerships directors, and I want to see if you want to share your journey. Is that something that you're doing this year? And people have been so responsive for that. And it's because I'm not asking them for anything. I want to give them an opportunity.
There's a couple of reasons that's working. The first reason is that you're not asking. The second reason is that, and Devin Reed is noted for saying this, you wrote an email they want to respond to. If you think about how short, brevity is your friend, right? Like, nobody wants to read your novel. Stop writing novels to people, okay? Lord of the Rings, great movie, great book. I love it. It's my favorite. Don't write it to people. They don't want to read it. Most people are not loader nerds like me, right? Okay, so that message rings true for a couple different things for me. The first one is that the brevity is definitely your friend in 2024 and beyond. I look at every email as an opportunity to be viewed on a mobile device. If they have to scroll more than once, chances are good they're not going to read the whole thing, right? So write your emails, write your DMs accordingly, right? How many times have you accepted somebody's connection request? The moment you hit accept, you get the novel, right? And you're like, did you just copy and paste this, or is there some level of like automation in here? Like, you just wrote this really fast. Like, I can't believe how quick you wrote these 9 paragraphs to me. And I'm not going to respond. In fact, I'm going to remove you from my network because this is bananas, right? This happens to me every single day. And the adverse happens too, where they're like, how are you? Notice that both of these tactics are on the polar opposite ends of the spectrum, but neither of them do I want to reply to.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get tissues, bro. It's so true. It's so true.
It's true. How are you? Fuck off with that, man. I'm not going to answer that question. You know how I am. I'm being prompted by you.
Oh my God. So,
I hope this email finds you well. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's not well.
oh my God. Oh my God. Well, I think that leads us into the next segment. What are the best tactics? What are the best tactics that you've found to be effective in 2024?
Yeah.
We've only been a couple of weeks into the year. I'll lead with mine. There's
Yeah.
a few major players that I would love to have on my podcast, and to cut through the noise, I've noticed that opportunity or any type of random title has not been effective. So what I've done now is the subject line is your OnlyFans has been leaked. It has 100% conversion rate.
Wait. Wait, 100% conversion or the
Open rate,
subject
sorry,
line? It's
open
100%
rate,
open
open
rate.
rate. So let's get clarity.
What's your reply
That
rate
was the
though? What's your
funniest
reply
thing
rate?
I've seen all year. And I'm just like, all right,
Yeah.
cool. So what is it that we want
What's
to
up?
do? So one of them was, let's see if it comes to fruition. But Brandon Bonassin, he's from Seamless. I messaged
Yeah,
him.
sure.
Yeah,
I
and
know.
he
Working with
saw
him
it.
for
He
a long
cracked up, and then I sent him a video. And then what I'm doing now is the video element is definitely a game changer. Instead of writing any type of email, hey, look, this
time.
is what I'm trying to do. I want to speak to you about this. I'm not asking you for anything in return, but if this is something you want to look at, whether it's now or later in the future, let's have a chat. And like you said, the brevity in that and just the authenticity is far more valuable than, like you said, going and messaging a bunch of
Yeah.
people, one after the other, one after the other. It's like really focus on that person. If you truly, truly see value in them and you want to actually engage them, there's something that is an opportunity in the conversation and the education for a wider environment. That's where I see there's value in both sides exchanging. So for yourself, what would you
Yeah.
say? It doesn't have to be outreach, but an effective strategy in the B2B domain that you feel more people should be inheriting,
Um,
learning, or just be aware of?
yeah. If you want to be part of the 1% in 2024 and beyond, and it's going to be simpler than you think, Shane. Pick up the
Hey,
freaking phone. Like, no one is calling anyone right now, and yet everyone is complaining about how, and I hate this term, email is dead. Email is trash. I had Will Aitken on the show, on the Sell Better Daily show yesterday, and he said, and I'm going to say it to you now because it's one of the smartest people that I know. He said, it doesn't matter what you think is dead. It matters what your prospects and your buyers think is dead. We all have a certain channel that we gravitate towards because we like that channel. So I'm a big fan, and this is the tactic that you guys can use, of the 1-2-3. The 1-2-3 is I'm first going to dial your phone number. If I get you on the phone, might change the message I send afterwards, right? So don't just send the message. Try to call first, because who knows what you're going to write to them after they actually speak to you. That's amazing, right? Then right after, let's say they don't answer, leave the message. Leave your name at the back of the message. They don't care who you are. If you start with that, they just hang up. They don't respond. So tell them why, and then leave your name and contact. Don't leave your number. They're not going to dial your phone number. Don't leave it. Instead, tell them you're sending an email. That way they go look for it. You can even tell them the subject line if you want, right? So I'll be like, hey, what's up, Larry? I'm calling you because you're a VP of sales, and demand is something that salespeople need. They have to have leads to be able to call. Let's have a conversation. This is James with Sell Better. I'm sending you an email now. The subject line is demand at company name, right? And now they are on the lookout subconsciously for this email. Then I send the email. Guess what the subject line is? We don't have to go there, right? So I hit the subject line. I send the email. And then I hit them on social. My connection request is either blank, which has a 41% higher conversion rate, acceptance rate than personalized connection requests, or it references the call and the email. And this is how I do it. Larry, just left you a voice note at this number because I want them to know I have their number, right? And I'm calling again. Also, shot a quick email your way at this email address. Thought I'd close the loop here as well. James' cell phone number. I just became a human being to this person. I am not a robot. I am not an AI engine that's been reaching out. I'm a human, right? I don't care which channel he responds to me on. Shocker, he's probably not going to call me back, right? But he's going to send me an email. He's going to send me a message. And a lot of times those emails and messages start like this. Just got your message. So that's a tactic you can use that's worked for me. And this is timeless, dude. This has worked for me for a decade. Like, if you just take that one step for your step 1-2-3, you'll be amazed at how many people you don't have to go much further with. And what's the average number of contact touches that it takes to have a meaningful conversation? I've heard 6, I've heard 8, I've heard 20. Right? Like, if it takes you 20 touches, dude, you should have let go of that person 14 touches ago. That person, go back to the drawing board, change things, right? Like, don't just keep doing it. Do it 100 times, sure, but don't keep doing it. Take a step back, call somebody, shoot the email, give them the subject line, reach out on LinkedIn all same day in like a 5 to 10 minute window. I'm floored at how many people accept my connection request and then respond to my email, or respond to my email and be like, this is interesting, or yeah, this is actually something we've talked about, or hey, this is relevant to me, and then accept my connection request. This is how you build the trust really fast, build rapport really
And I
fast
think
in the
honestly,
modern
the
age.
way you've positioned it though, it's how you cold call, what your message is, and how you deliver it. Because a lot of people are just told to cold call because it's a fast route into a deal or a conversation, but they neglect the actual path to get there.
Right.
Now, I want to ask you this. I've seen an opportunity in the past 3 months where cold calling was always my best friend. I've always been a powerhouse at cold
Mm.
calling. I believe I'm truly one of the best in the world. Arrogance or whatever, I've done it for enough, and I've been through enough situations to truly
He's very
believe.
shy, y'all. He's very shy.
And look, it's where my personality is.
Be gentle.
So recently, though, I've noticed that some people who have such a big network on LinkedIn have weak pockets on
Yeah.
Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, on Facebook.
Ah.
And there's been a handful. I'm not going to go off the rails and say there's a lot. I will say there's a handful of people that have actually engaged where it was virtually impossible to reach them on LinkedIn. I actually cold called
Mm.
somebody on Instagram yesterday. They didn't pick up. They called me back a minute later. They're going to be on the podcast next week. They'll show themselves there. What do you think about the evolution of cold calling in the social channels will be over the next 1, 2, 3 years?
So first of all, if you're coming from social to the phone on a perceived cold call, I have news for you. It is not cold. It's warm, right? They have a context. They have seen a message from you, especially on places like Instagram where you can
Yeah.
see that somebody saw your message. You can turn that on and off in the settings, but most people don't. You can see that they saw your message 5 minutes ago, you know? What I do is I call this cross pollination, and it works very well. We just closed this week a $10,000 deal that started with an Instagram DM. And the guy reached out to me in Instagram inbound, and he said, I've been coming to the show for a while. I love it. I would love to connect sometime and learn more. Let's talk. And I immediately was like, hey, I talk to people like you all the time. This is what we usually talk about. Are you down? And he was like, sure. Connected with him on LinkedIn, sent him a connection request, reached out on Instagram, just sent you a connection request on LinkedIn, hashtag cross pollination, laugh out loud, right? And he connected. We connected on a group call, my team and his team. This was 12 days ago, I think, maybe. Or maybe now that I think about it, it might have been before Christmas. So just about a month. Let's say about a month. So we're at a 30-day window here, closing a $10,000 deal. And it all started from content that I put out on Instagram and then went from Instagram to LinkedIn to the call. This is organic, and that's what you want. We have to stop thinking cold outreach is the only route for prospecting. And we have to start thinking, what can I create and put out there that pulls people in my direction? And once they're in my purview, can I cross-reference it with my tools and my tech stack, find them, the company they work for, are they this title? Are they this persona? Does their company have funding? Whatever your check boxes are for ICPs. This is a better, more organic way to prospect in 2024 and beyond, rather than I'm just going to throw it out there because this is what most motherfuckers do and it pisses me off. Right. I'm going to go to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I'm going to look for this title in this region of the world with this many people that work at the company. And this is going to be my list. And then I'm going to write a generic message and I'm going to send 1,000 emails a day to this list of 6 million people. And I only want to talk to people that are going to buy from me. You laugh, but this is real shit that people think, man. And it's not right. It's not right. What they end up doing is going on PIP programs. They end up in one-on-ones with their meetings and being like questioned about their pipeline. These are the same people that have, 150 opportunities in their pipe, and 70% of them have been there for 2.5 years, and there's never been another touch since last in the last 8 months. And you're like, hey, when's this going to close? And what do you hear back, right? Oh, I'm sure it's going to go. I'm sure.
This is the
So, you know,
one.
this is the quarter that they're going to sign. No, I'm selling that contract 5 months ago. I'm 100% that procurement is going to make that happen for me. Oh, you talked to procurement? No. I've never had a conversation with them, right? We have to get away from this,
It's
man. This is
terrible.
not sales anymore. It's what sales used to
And I
be. It's
think
what
that is
sales
a
used
major
to
point
be.
that I'm trying to highlight in what I do is a lot of people have said, oh yeah, well, this isn't here yet. This isn't here yet. We're not doing this yet. This worked so well all this time ago. Well, yo, a fucking horse and carriage worked 50 years ago. We've got Teslas now. What are we going to have in another 50 years? Yes, cold calling worked 10, 20 years ago with Jordan Belfort. Now we have all these other mediums. Why not intertwine and integrate with all of them? So a question I want to ask then, on the social media front and using social media in the right way, are you guys doing anything that people can kind of drive themselves towards to take advantage of that? I've not seen anything online that says this is the way you can leverage all 6 platforms in this format and get the result you want. I've not seen nobody do that.
Yeah, and rightfully so. And you know why you haven't seen it? Because it doesn't exist. There is no way to manage it all effectively without spending the time, yo. There's no way. There's too much involved in it. One particular piece of content doesn't perform the same way on one platform as it does on another. The format that you shot it in is not conducive to the way that it's uploaded into this particular reel. The amount of collateral that I can add to an image is different on one platform than it is another. We have to stop trying to blanket solve for everything that takes time. That is not realistic, nor is it effective. What ends up doing is you end up automating things that you probably shouldn't automate, going back and making constant edits to it. And what are you really doing? You're not selling.
Yeah,
You're
you're right.
busy,
You're
but you're not
absolutely right.
productive. You're just causing more problems and more time management issues for yourself than is needed. And that is the opposite of progress. That is the opposite of growth. That is the opposite of success, right? We're going back. That's anytime you're going back, stop. What did you do wrong? If you're going to go back once, not 10 times, right? So the reason why we feel this way, it's overwhelming and it takes time, is because we don't do the things that allow us the time. Let me give a skill that I've picked up over the last, I'd say, 5 years with Sell Better and JB. Time block everything. If I know that I have 10 tasks that I have to do every day or every other day, I need to go ahead and just block that time off so it's not available, and that will allocate that time to get those tasks done. Then I can go back to the things that are going to be pipeline generation, negotiation stuff, contract management, whatever I might be doing on the sales side, right? AE, SDR work, CS. But block your time off for the things that you know are going to take time. Otherwise, you're like, oh shit, I really got to get these people reached out to. I really got to get these tasks done. But wait, here's this other thing that I have to do. You have to always do both, right? So that's my skill that I would let everybody know needs to be like the focus for them is manage your time well, protect it well. It matters. I have like 3 links in HubSpot that lead to my calendar, but they're only available at certain windows of time throughout the day. Sometimes those times are already allocated for, so they need to go a couple days out. And we all have priorities in life. We all have to make the choice as to what we're going to spend the time on. If you're doing something that is not getting you to the goals, the results that you're after, stop doing that thing and do the thing that helps you get there. I know a lot of people get handed things. When you get handed something, turn to that person and say, I haven't hit my weekly goal yet. You might want to find somebody else to do that. I'm happy to do it, but just know that it's not going to be a priority until this is done. If that person's okay with it, fine, take the assignment. But that person might tell you, no, I'll find somebody else. Great. Now you can focus on the thing that matters most. Right? Communication is, and I think I saw this quote. It was probably the best quote that I've seen in the last 6 months. But this was a good quote. It said, "Communication is often the cause and solution for most of our
My
problems."
mentor told me exactly the same thing in a different set of words. 90% of all problems come from miscommunication. And I experienced that in my marriage. I experienced that in previous relationships until I had to learn how do I get better at managing my relationship. So, two things on that, and then we're probably going to come to the top of the hour. How, for somebody that's perhaps moving into sales, because I know a lot of people have seen what I do, they've heard about it for years, but now they're seeing the reality of it. How do you suggest or make a suggestion to members of the audience that are kind of moving into sales or kind of trying to get that little edge? How do they prioritize those tasks accordingly? You've got the Eisenhower matrix, you've
Mm-hmm.
got OKRs, you've got all kinds of ways to do it. Red, green, white, rag
Yeah.
kind of format. But what do you make as a suggestion? This is what I would suggest you guys do.
The way it works for me, the way it works best for me is I look at when my brain is functioning best. I am a morning person. So I get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and my brain is like on fire. After half a cup of coffee, I am like ready to go. Yeah, it's weird. But I know that about myself. So I take all my most important tasks that are going to require the most brain power and I do those in the morning. And in the afternoons, when my family's getting home from school and work and dinner needs to get made, I'm responsible for that, right? Stuff needs to get done around the house. I'm starting to fade a little bit, starting to get, a little burnt out from the day. This is where things that are a little more menial come in. Read this article or think about how you're going to post this post tomorrow. Stuff like that. It all gets, messaging is actually something that I do towards the afternoon, like in the middle of the day, right? Because I'm
Makes
still kind of
sense.
on fire a little bit. So my messaging is going to be pretty decent. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to do the research and ride the wave, so to speak. And then I'm tailoring off. I'm tapering off towards the end of the day. So I put those tasks that are a little more lax and not so much of a priority towards the end of the day. Because if I get them done, great. If not, hey, I got news for y'all. They're going to be there tomorrow too. They're going to They're going to be there. When you get up in the morning, that task that you didn't do yesterday afternoon, it's there. So that's how I do it. Is I recognize when I am at my best and when I'm at my worst, and I prioritize my activities accordingly.
What do you
Hashtag you're
say
muted.
are your predictions for this year in sales?
Ooh, I have two. I have two. The first one is that I believe account executives and probably customer success will be asked to prospect more than ever before. That is something I'm seeing the writing on the wall for that already. There's a lot of the number one persona, number one and number two personas that come to our show are account executives and SDRs. Naturally, right? We talk about prospecting, we talk about closing, right, on the show. So most of the account executives in the room have been very forthcoming with us in saying, when I say to them, in the chat, yes or no, are you guys being asked to prospect more than ever before? Overwhelming
Wow.
yeses, right? So I believe that trend will continue, and I believe that account executives that say things in their one-on-ones like SDRs didn't do a
Oh,
good
God.
enough job setting meetings for me, or marketing didn't do their job. Those people will no longer have a job at the end of the year if that's their reason for missing their mark, because
It's
that's
blame.
basically
Blame
like
game.
putting your success in the hands of, well, you're putting your success in the hands of someone else, right? And that's a losing strategy every time, no matter what. The second prediction that I have is that I think we will see more roll-ups/acquisitions, mergers, than any other year in recent history. The reason for this is because what we are waking up to, what we are realizing as a space full of C-level executives, owners of companies, RevOps people, is that there are too many companies that should be features. And those companies are getting left in the dust, or they're selling to existing companies, right? What I will use as an example is there was a product not too long ago, probably like 4 or 5 years ago, called
I do
Costello.
not.
Remember
Tell,
Costello?
tell, tell us about that quickly.
Costello, uh, yeah, Frank Dale founded Costello, and Costello was a software about pipeline management. They were the first to come out with this streamlined version of a revenue meeting, a one-on-one, a deal review, right? John Barrows fell in love with this product. We also had an existing relationship with SalesLoft. Lo and behold, SalesLoft purchased Costello and built it into their platform. And now it's called Deals in
Wow.
SalesLoft. That happened a few years back. Frank Dale is currently like one of the product managers, product marketing, product gurus over at SalesLoft. And this guy's a genius, right? Like when you look at this kind of stuff, this is going to continue to keep happening. CEOs are going to keep building these companies, these startups, and they're going to be features. And they're going to go, yeah, we're the best at this. And they probably will capture a certain percentage of the market. Then some other larger organization that has a feature for their target audience, they're both selling to the same, they're going to go, hey, we should build that into our platform. They go, why build it? Let's buy it. Right? And they will. They will continue to do it. I think, here we go, Loom. Wasn't Loom just, yes, Loom was picked up by Atlassian, probably the quietest acquisition I've ever seen. And then Spiff was acquired by Salesforce.com recently.
I saw that. And Loom is, so there's two products on the market. Just to jump in on that, Loom, I just found out yesterday that they've now released a product in competition to another product called Send Potion. And what they do is you can record one video, and that one video you can interchange the names, right? Now, Potion is $249 a month. Loom is $11 a month. And they're doing the same thing. And that just completely pushes them out of the market. It's insane. So now,
well, we've all seen American Gangster. We're gonna sell a product that's better than the competition. Right? It's lower than the competition. Right? What about the dairy farmers? Are you thinking about us? Right? Like, what about them for the dairy farmers out here? No, I'm not thinking about the dairy farmers. Absolutely not. Fuck those farmers. That's the way he felt about it. And the same thing is happening right now. These companies, they're just purchasing these and they're adopting all of their client base and they're closing, let's say, 30 to 40% of an existing client base out there anyway. Hey, thank you for using X product. We've now been acquired by Y company. If you'd like to continue to use it, please sign up here, and the renewals begin. And that's revenue generation at an epic scale. I have one more prediction for you that I think you'll find interesting. It borderlines an ethical conundrum that I've seen for at least a year now. I think I've heard a couple different horror stories about this. CROs are going to begin coming into their new roles and looking at vendors and third-party providers and canceling every contract that they have. Not because they don't need the products, but because the expectation is that those products will come back to them and renegotiate their contract. And this will save them 50 to 70% on overhead, depending on how much that company is willing to discount their product to continue to have that client.
Right. So the big question everybody's going to want to ask for all the SDRs, for all the AEs, for all the business owners, how should we be using GPT today in our domain?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to wait till the last time limit on this question. we try to get, I don't know, a year's
We're
worth
gonna have to have more
episodes.
That's exactly what I did at the end.
We're gonna have to do it. Okay, all right. So here's the thing. I'll be open and honest with you in saying that I limited my use of ChatGPT to mostly give me information, educate me, right? And then I started using it for alternative subject lines. And, please find three, this is some prompts that I use, right? Please find 3 alternative subject lines for the following email. And then I put the email in and they give me the subject lines. Please find 3 alternative CTAs, calls to action, for this email, right? This stuff has helped my messaging improve quite a bit. It's helped me shrink some words down. Please rewrite this message is a great prompt. Rewrite this is a great prompt. The education side, though, I will caution, please verify everything that you're reading if you're using ChatGPT for education. If you say, educate me or tell me the top 5 priorities at Johnson & Johnson company right now, right? It's going to give you the 5 priorities. Please go look and make sure that those are the actual priorities, because you can't just take everything that ChatGPT says as fact. Some things that I have found even more interesting about ChatGPT recently, John has shown me the Explore option in ChatGPT, which I think is like the top tier for paid. So if you have, it's dope, dude. Like, it does all types of things. So don't my advice to you, how can we use it better to distill it down? Don't limit yourself to one or two use cases. Really explore other use cases. There are a billion YouTube videos out there for ways to use ChatGPT effectively, and it's baked into a lot of other products out there. I would say use it in as many use cases as you see an opportunity to use it in, and find the ones that most lend itself to your goals, your revenue goals. Don't do it just to do it, because you'll find yourself in the black hole. I will read for hours and then be like, reiterate, reiterate.
That's
reiterate,
exactly what I do.
reiterate, right? And you get, no, I get stuck in there, man. So I had to limit it to like, what's the best prompt I'm going to use? I'm going to throw the prompt in there, and what I get is what I get, and then I'm going to like figure it out, right? So that's my.
Have you been locked out yet?
Limit.
I have.
No, no. I tend to not get locked out of things. I get cease and desist orders. That's what I get.
No, what I'm saying is I'm the same. Redo that, and then what it says is you've been blocked. You can no longer use GPT until 4 a.m. in the morning, like 3 hours later. So look, in terms of just being exploratory, curious, um, just wanting to learn more, that explore button, I don't know if you've seen it, but you can get your own GPTs. Every
Yeah.
major brand now has their own. If you would go and build your own GPTs within that, you are going to be part of the rev share eventually. So this is a way to create wealth, and I believe it will be a massive opportunity for everybody. So look, we're going to have to have a few more on that particular topic, but I will.
No, I'm talking AI until the cows come home, man. I have so much knowledge like that. I've just been, because my
It's
curiosity
incredible,
on this
dude.
is
It's
so
incredible.
ridiculous.
So most podcast hosts that I've listened to in the past will always say, "What's one habit? What's action you would have told yourself 20 years ago when you're 18?" I don't follow that suit. I always like to be different. So push it 10 years ahead. We're at 5:01, top of the hour, 18th of January. For yourself, I think you're in Eastern or Central? Eastern
I'm in
Standard. So
Eastern
you're
Standard
at
Time.
12. What are you doing at 12 noon, 10 years from today at this exact time?
I'm probably hosting the show. Yeah, I'm probably either hosting the show or I am on a stage somewhere talking about growth and development. I like talking to young kids. I just got into like talking to Knox County schools and showing them this value of media. I'd really like to get young people into monetization of social media sooner. They're already in it, man. They're already in
Yeah.
TikTok. They're addicts already. Might as well show them to be successful with it and not just like lay around on the couch flipping through their feeds. So I want to focus there in the near future. Is like, how do I teach kids, young kids, that there's a way to monetize this and you should look into it and learn about it, because you're going to do it, and you're going to do it because it's in your nature. Our generation, I think not the millennials, but the Generation Z is the first generation to go through junior high and high school with smart technology. And if you think about that, their formative years are almost completely shaped in the box. And yet they have the most questions about how to be successful. When you ask them what they want their annual salary to be, they throw out numbers that are unbelievable. Sometimes they're like, I want to make $1 million. You're like, yeah.
Do you know how to do that?
You let me know. Right. And then the other side of it is you say, what do you want to make every year? And they're like, $10,000. And you're like, yo, that's low. Like you don't understand what's happening here. Like, let me show you some avenues to revenue that you should be doing right now. You show them kids that are monetizing right now and making great money, influence. I'm like, man, they have to learn how. And if we don't teach, if somebody is not there to like guide their hand, they'll just be on the couch their whole lives flipping through their TikTok feeds. And what good is that?
It's worrying because I think what will happen is there'll be two sides of the fence. There'll be the people that can leverage technology, AI to augment, as John says, and make them better, and then they'll just become zombies who just use AI to be told what to do. And those, I think, we're sitting in the middle where we can really shift that. So, look, we wrap up. We're at the top of the hour. James, where can people find you, engage with you, if that's the choice? And what's your favorite rap and hip hop song? I know.
Oh, good question at the end. hit me up at Say What Sales on social, and you want to check out our website, sellbetter.xyz. You can find all the replays of the daily show and go learn. They are 100% available to you. My favorite rap and hip hop song, probably, man, that's such a hard question to ask. I don't even know what to say here because all these songs run into my head. I'm going to say This Is How We Do. That's what's in my head from The Game and
What you know about that?
because
20 years ago,
that's
bro.
what's in my head. Hey, I'm fine with it. I'm old school, man. I still listen to Slick Rick. You don't even know.
Hood.
I know. Right? Yeah. Deported from this country.
I got deported too.
Like what?
Stumped.
Unbelievable, man. I let that guy stay here because it would have impacted our hip hop culture in such a great way. It was so insane the way they deported him. I was like, oh, are you joking? Slick Rick is being deported?
Dude,
what is happening?
It happens. That's the truth. Well, James, I really I had so much fun. My sleeve is wet from crying of laughter. And I had so much fun, mate. Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure. And
yeah, you got it, man. Hey, don't forget this job is supposed to be fun. If you're not having fun selling,
you heard it from him yourself. Until next time, this will be live by the end of the week. All the links for James will be at the bottom of this description. Like, share, subscribe if you found value in this. If you got education, we'll see you again. Thank you, James. Stay on for 1 minute while it uploads, and we'll see you next time.